What is going on, guys? Noah Brewer here, back again with another video. It's been a couple weeks, but I have a really good video for you right now. We're going to be talking about how I find products and end up getting, 5, 6, 7 ROASs on my campaigns. On a brand new pixel, brand new store, brand new everything pretty much. And there's one big difference that I'm doing now versus what I did, 8 months ago. I talked about a lot about going on Facebook and using that kind of method, just looking at other people's ads. I call it the copycat method, which we're not going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about it a little bit, but not so much. We're more going to be talking about the term that I coined, the pioneer method, which is essentially coming up with your own products to test. But I'm going to start off with a little backstory, how I got into the pioneer method, and some of the benefits and stuff that I've seen with it. So let's just get right into it. So one thing to know is I don't hate the copycat strategy. This is a strategy that I used for a very long time. Ever since I started out doing e-commerce until, just 7 or 8 months ago is when I started implementing the pioneer as opposed to the copycat. So I had failures with the copycat strategy, and I also had many successes. More failures than successes, but I've seen both sides of it. I've seen the bad side of it and I've seen the good side of it. It worked for a while and it was working for me. It was working for my clients and everything. And I was finding winning products and all that sort of stuff. There are two problems with this method that I realized very quickly, and it was very difficult for me to map around these issues. The first issue was, always thinking or actually seeing, just because it worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for me, or just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for them. And I started realizing this when I started getting winners and then tried duplicating those winners into new stores. Facebook is very weird, and it's not like you can, once you have a winning product, you can, just start spending $10,000 a day right out the gate. There's things like optimization, your store design, data, all those things come into play when you're scaling a product, and it's not as simple as just putting up an ad and making money. Now, there's more to it than that. So the whole time when I was following the copycat strategy, I was always questioning, just because it works for them doesn't mean that it's going to work for me. Then, what's the point? Like, what's the difference between me testing proven products and what's the difference between me just testing random products out there? So that was one conflict that I had in my mind. And if you don't know this already, it is like that. Just because this person, did 7 figures with that product doesn't mean that you're going to make a single penny on it. And same thing vice versa. Just because it didn't work for him doesn't mean it won't work for you. I think there's a higher chances, right? Like if it worked for him, there's a higher chance that it's also going to work for you. But if it didn't work for him, then there's a higher chance that it won't work. But that's kind of what it relies on, is just that chance, the higher chance, which is not a problem. I just always ask myself, like, why are we going through all this trouble to steal other people's products when, it doesn't even have that big of a benefit? It's not like we're going to find somebody who has a winning product, put it on our store, test it, and instantly have a winning product. You still had to go through 10 or 20 of them to find a winner. And this brings me into the second issue that I had with the copycat method. And this is, once I did have a winner, it would either die out or it would scale good, but it won't make a whole lot of money. The average ROAS would be 2, 2.5, 3. I barely ever saw 4 or 5s. I did on some stores, but not, and I'm talking about ROAS, but it wasn't common, right? Like it wasn't, every other store. It was more like 1 out of 10 stores that I was managing was seeing an ROAS of over 3. So I couldn't really figure out what was causing this, right? Because I know that it's more than possible, or I knew that it's more than possible to consistently get, a 4 ROAS, 5 ROAS, 6 ROAS, and better. I just never really figured it out. And part of the reason why I started doing the pioneer method, I actually suspected that the guy that was getting the 5, 6, 7 ROAS was the guy who first tested that product, the guy who first brought it to market. Now, there's some truth to this. There's, some not truth to this. Like, there's been many cases where I've seen a 6 ROAS on a copycat or stolen product, but it's just not as common, right? Like, it wasn't reliable. It would be kind of like a lucky day or a lucky product if that happened, which is not a problem, but that's one of the things that I was thinking, like those guys that actually go out there and be the first to the race, they might be making all the money, and we're just being left off with the scraps. So I don't think that the scraps are a little amount, right? Like there's plenty of people out there, and the audience is big enough for 10 people to do 7 figures in sales. and there's still room for more. So not that the scraps aren't a lot, but as I said, that, it wasn't like every winner that I had was making a ton of money, and it seemed like the guys that were making a ton of money were the first ones to bring that product to the market. So I guess the reality of it is I never really dived into the pioneer method because I never really had the balls to. There's something about, a higher chance of being successful if it works for somebody else. That's comforting, right? Like, it feels good. It feels really great to know that you're testing something that's already proven. And, when you're out there trying to come up with your own winning products, it can be a little bit discouraging. If you test 10 products and you still don't have a winner, then, it's completely and entirely your fault. Because, you can't blame the product page or anything. It's the product, because, there's nobody else out there that's doing these products. You're the only one. It was your idea. It's your product description. It's your video. That was really my issue, is I just didn't have the balls to do it. So I decided to jump into it and start testing around with the pioneer method a little bit, just to kind of test some products and see how it does. As you know, it doesn't really cost too much money to test products, so I thought, why not throw a grand at it and see what happens. So I've already seen, hundreds of winning products by now. Probably not hundreds that I personally grew, but, just throughout friends and people that I was working with at the time. But even myself, I probably managed 40, 50 winning products at this time as well. Like, this is somewhere in the middle of last year. So I had a pretty damn good idea of the types of products that end up working on Facebook ads. And I started kind of building out criteria, which I built that criteria based on, the common factors of each winner that I was managing at the time. What was the margin? Did it solve a problem? Did it create a desire? Those types of things. And I have a video already on my channel talking about this criteria. But basically all I did was I just hopped in AliExpress, and I was just going to go in there and try and look for products that, were not proven, just things that I could look at and be like, okay, that meets the criteria. I'm just going to test it. And right when I jumped into AliExpress, my eyes lit up. I literally saw products on products on products, things that look like they could be winners, but that, I haven't never seen before. And, they didn't have any orders, or they just weren't saturated products that I was used to. They weren't things that you see a bunch of ads for all the time, things like the Ab Simulator, or, I can't even think of them off the top of my head. So I started building up my list. I started, getting the videos made, building out the descriptions, doing the whole method, because I couldn't steal descriptions or videos anymore. So I was kind of forced to create my own content. I started doing all that, and I launched the initial wave of my pioneer tests. And let me just say, when the results hit, I told myself that I was never going to do the copycat method again. So the first day of testing the product, I absolutely blew up and did $600 in sales with a $40 ad spend, give or take. And this was like my first time seeing an insanely high ROAS on the first day of a test. And, never mind the second day and the third day and, the coming weeks and stuff. And this was like my turning point, because usually when I would test a product using the copycat method, it would get one sale, maybe two sales on the first day if it's a really good winner, compared to the other ones. But this thing straight up made like 5 or 6 sales on its first day. The cost per purchase was like $8, which was absolutely insane because the margin on it was like 50 or 60. So like over the span of the first week, I think it averaged at like a 6 or 7 ROAS, and this was like insane, right? Like, to me, having a 3 ROAS was considered really good. And, everybody's telling me, do the copycat method is good. It's great. I've been doing it for a while, but I think I only tested like 6 products to get this. And I was just using my own brain, my own experience to tell me which products are good and bad to test. But honestly, guys, once I saw that 6 ROAS, it was done. Like, I was like, I'm never doing the copycat method again. And I actually ended up scaling that store to multi-6 figures. And it did really, really good. Like, I think it was the most profitable store that I've ever seen at that time. When it comes to ad spend versus product cost and the amount of revenue that was given back, super duper profitable. And this was around the time when I started implementing the pioneer method over and over and over again. And that was kind of my move at the time, because I was so sick of having products or testing 15 products and then finding a winner, and then that winner either just died out, or it would make like a grand profit in its first month and would barely make up for, all the testing that it took to get that winner. I was just so sick of this. And this made a grand in its first few days profit, So this was actually actually make money, a real 7 ROAS. I'm not talking about just one ad set that, took off and the rest of them are shit. I'm talking about average for the whole campaign. Every single ad set had a sale. It was like one of the most amazing things that I've ever seen. And honestly, it was also around this time, after duplicating it a few times, I started to realize that people were copying me now. All the people out there still following the copycat method, they were seeing my ads and they were going out and testing those products. So we actually created saturated products. The products that these guys would go out and test and steal my videos and my descriptions, like all this stuff, they would go out there and do. And I can guarantee you they were not getting 7 ROASs. So this is kind of, when I had the tick in my head that said, you know what, I was right, man. Like those people who are out there just using their own brain and using the pioneer method to go out and test products, those are the guys that are making all the money, not the little copycats running behind getting the scraps, right? So there are multiple reasons that following the pioneer method is so good, right? And I have a list in front of me because there's no way I'm remembering all these. But basically the first reason, and this is part of what dragged me into it in the first place, is you can choose your margins. You're not limited to only doing what other people are doing. So if you only want to test, $50 margins, $60 margins, or $100 products or $200 products, all that you have to do is just look for $100 products, right? Like products that you can sell for that much. And I was able to score some high ticket winners, right? Like I was used to $20 margins, $30 margins, $40 margins, whatever. And now with the pioneer method, I was only testing, 40, 50, 60, 80, sometimes $100 margins because I was in complete control of the margins that I was testing. The next reason is you're forced to create your own content. Now, this is good. You're just learning marketing. Like doing this will teach you a lot because instead of just copying and pasting from somebody else's store who knows what they're doing, now you're forced to actually learn about psychology and type your own product descriptions out, which is a good skill to have. Same thing with ad copy as well. And the obvious one is when you do find a winner, you're going to be the only guy doing it. And number 4, when you do find a winner, it's not just going to die out super quick like with the copycat method where I was seeing, you find a winner and it'll either die out or it'll just kind of drag itself on. With the pioneer method, like 90% of the time when you find a winner, that winner is going to make you all the money plus a ton more that you spent in testing trying to get it. This was something that was up in the air with the copycat method. I was never confident that when I found a winner, it would actually pay back for all the testing. And the last one, and this is probably the most important one and the most valuable thing that you can take out of following the pioneer method, and I don't mean just following it and trying it out. I mean, you're going to reap these benefits when you actually find winners with it, right? Like when you're actually finding products that sell, you're creating videos that sell, you're creating product descriptions that sell. And this is probably the most important one, is once you build the skill of just like seeing a product and just thinking in your head like that could be my next winner, and you know why, you know how to make the video, all that sort of stuff. That is one of the most one of the most valuable skills that I personally have learned out of using the pioneer method. Is I can pretty much look at something and know whether it's going to be good or not when I test it. In terms of where to look for these types of products, there's really no rules to it. You can do whatever you want. You can take a walk, go to the mall. You can scroll through AliExpress, which is my favorite one. I found the most winners doing that. Scroll through Amazon. Just really literally anything that can get you ideas flowing, just anything that can get your brain flowing. New products, Alibaba, there's a ton of different websites that you can use just to get some good ideas. And the system that I follow from, seeing the product to actually testing it is very, very simple. So the first thing that you do is you get the idea. You get, you figure out what you want to see or what you want to test, and then you have to go on AliExpress and try and source it. Now, if you have a sourcing agent or whatever, it's different, but you know that if you already have a sourcing agent. But if you're just starting out, I recommend just going to AliExpress and searching around and trying to source that product. See how cheap you can get it, compare pricing, compare features. Are you only able to get the cheap model and you're overpaying for it? What's the situation like? And then once you source a product, like let's say you have one and you want to test it, you want to drop ship from that supplier, then what you need to do is you need to get a custom video made for it. Now, I have 2 video editors on my team. One of them, he takes a little bit long, and then the other one, he gets them done quick. If I need one quickly, I just use him. But all you really need to do is just go on Upwork and make a post, or there's a lot of different freelancer websites that you can use to find a video editor for yourself. Next thing that you want to do is you want to create your product descriptions and ad copies. Now, I have videos on how to do this more in depth, but essentially you just go on other people's websites and look at the types of things that they talk about, and you type out, a couple paragraphs with some bullet points on, different features of the product and benefits, and you put a cool name on it or whatever. You can really do it however you want, and then you create the ad copy, and then you launch the ads, and it's really that simple. But I hope this video helped you understand the Pioneer method a little bit more, and I hope you enjoyed my story on how I went from, having pretty, not crappy, like obviously I got good results from the copycat method, but looking back, compared to the results that I'm getting now, they were pretty crappy results, okay? Like I'm not gonna say that they were horrible compared to, if you weren't getting any results at all, like it was making money, but the Pioneer method is just making, like let's just say 3 or 4 times more money. Anyways, if you like this video, subscribe, leave a like, drop a comment, let me know if you have any questions, or if you follow this method yourself, let me know your experiences. Maybe I can help out or give some pointers. That's all what we're here for anyways, but this is Noah Brewer, and I'm out. Peace.